For over 10 years, the world's #1 source for professional wrestling news and information. And once again, here's your hosts, Damian Nelson, Frank Cosentino, and the man they call Meathead. This is the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com. We're live Tuesday, November 10th. Coming to you here from our downtown Milwaukee studios. This should be our last week here in the old studio.
2 weeks ago was supposed to be our last week, but
hey,
that's
these
okay.
Things take time.
Hey, they take time. You know, we are on. We're definitely on bare bones. I've never wanted to be farther away from you than I am right now.
We welcome everybody listening on 540 ESPN and streaming live at ESPNMilwaukee.com. If you haven't done so already and you're listening, take us with you on your iPhone. Use the live listen app on your iPhone.
Say that again.
540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com. Meathead, we got a lot to talk about this week. Active news week in professional wrestling. A lot of things to discuss. Specifically, we've got a preview of TNA's pay-per-view on Sunday called Turning Point. We've also got a wrap-up of WWE Raw from this past Monday night. We're going to talk about some new developments with the departure of WWE, or the departure of Shane McMahon from WWE. We've got some discussion on Dixie Carter, the president of TNA Wrestling, and what she may mean. We're going to share with you some recent comments that she had that you may or may not have seen. And we're going to talk about the TNA House show business. There's a lot to discuss there in what's going on with their current house show and touring business. As I said, this is the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com. You can join us on the phone lines at absolutely no charge. The number 276-ESPN, 276-3776, or all over the world at 1-800-990-ESPN. Again, that's 1-800-990-ESPN. Meathead, let's first talk about WWE Raw from this past Monday night, just last night, actually, as we're live on Tuesday. And let's go over the rating. Down a little bit from the prior week. 3.1 is what it scored. However, the troubling thing potentially for WWE is they lost viewers in the second hour, which is an alarming trend that has started as of late. 3.17 in hour one, a 2.95 in hour two. Let's talk about the show as it was, and I think the big news story to come out of Raw this past week was the mega push to the moon for Kofi Kingston.
Oh, this is where I start? Kofi, it's funny. Kofi Kingston, maybe he's in a spot now that he didn't think he'd even be in, only because of their lack of anybody else to put in that spot, to be quite honest with you. And the alarming trend that you talk about, losing viewers in the second hour, it can only lead to one thing. Why are we still seeing Randy Orton, John Cena, Triple H, Shawn Michaels every week?
Well,
in the same spot.
Well, we're going to have to for a while as they build these new stars, such as Kofi Kingston. But I think Kofi Kingston, they made it abundantly clear that the last 2 weeks have not been a fluke. Now, they can always change their story, change their mood, but they are serious about this guy, so serious that he's leading a team against Randy Orton at the Survivor Series.
But unfortunately, who else would it be? The Miz is leading a team.
Well, he's awesome.
John Morrison is leading a team.
Hair and pecs, abs, rather.
So abs and hair.
Abs and hair.
If you're going to do it right. The problem is that they, again, Jericho mentioned this, a few months ago, I don't see any new stars. How did they not realize this 4 or 5 years ago? I don't understand why they didn't get this. I guess you can go and say that they were building MVP 3 years ago. They were building Kennedy 3 years ago.
Kennedy!
They were building these other stars, and what did they do with it? Nothing. Randy Orton apparently is so protective of his spot. When a guy gets put up against him, a new guy that's not part of the left side of the mountain or the molehill, he'll do what he can to keep his spot. So now that they brought a new guy in, how does that affect Kofi? Kofi, is he playing the company role? Is he doing his job, like a Chico? Is he getting it done? Or is he actually,
Chico.
That's a Scott Hall thing. Do your job, Chico.
I think they're, to all those points, what they could have done 5 years ago is basically a moot point, but what they're doing now is just like when they realized they had a problem with tag team wrestling. Jericho came in and really addressed that problem and fixed it.
No, they didn't.
I think they did.
All they are is two big-name players that are holding the tag team belts. They don't wrestle in tag team matches for their belts or in tag team title feuds.
But
no,
they
they didn't
elevated.
address anything. They didn't address anything.
But they
Who's
have
gone against Jericho and, strive to be the tag team champions? Name me the last tag team title match they had.
I believe it was against Crime Time.
How long ago was that?
I believe it was about 30 days ago. And you only have to defend the title once every 30
Jack
days.
Tunney said
The point
that, but
is-
we're talking about the last, 5 years. They haven't addressed anything. All they did was they took two big-name guys and put the tag team belts on them. And it's not because they want to make the tag team belts better. It's because they need to give Jericho and Show belts, and those were the belts that were available.
Them being as great a tag team as they are, whether they're in tag team matches or not, took a tag team division that was non-existent
Which still
and made
is.
it existent.
No, there is no tag team division. How are you saying
So
that?
what are
there's
these teams that are tag team? What is the Hart Dynasty doing? What is Legacy
They
doing?
were there.
What is
Hart
Jericho
Dynasty,
doing?
Hart
What
Dynasty
is
was there before
Crime Time
Jericho.
doing?
Hart
Well,
Dynasty,
exactly,
Crime Time
but
was
you
there
needed
before
You
Jericho.
needed a top talent.
But that doesn't make them any better. It doesn't make the tag team division any better. How? It
absolutely does. It
No,
gives it credibility.
doesn't. What credibility? Zero.
The
All
fact
Jericho,
that you have Chris Jericho and The Big Show, two top stars in WWE, representing the top of the tag team division as opposed to trying to remember who the tag team champions are.
but still, there's no relevance to the tag team belts or a tag team division. Just because you have two recognizable names holding the tag team belt doesn't mean squat.
I think it means a lot. I think it means a lot with those two holding the titles. And again, the tag team division in WWE, in my opinion, was non-existent before Jericho was elevated into that role. Whether they're doing it weekly or not, they are still billed as and known as the Unified Tag Team Champions, and they are the people who are pretty much the cornerstone of the tag team division. Whether you like them or not, D-Generation X, also a tag team. While they may not wrestle as a tag team often, they are a tag team. There are a lot more tag teams now in WWE, especially since Jericho was put into place than there were before. And what I mean by that is, who knew they existed? What was the Hart Dynasty doing? Really nothing. They had a feud with Crime Time.
What are they doing now?
Well, they're going to be wrestling at the Survivor Series, actually.
Okay, just as part
In a
because
tag
they
team
have
match.
nobody else. Because they have nobody else. They're not. It's not because they're in a tag
They
team.
do have
division.
others. They have Crime Time. They have MVP
Time.
and Mark Henry, who have been prominently featured as
MVP and
tag
Mark
teams.
Henry are on Raw. Hart Dynasty's on SmackDown.
But they're tag teams.
Okay, but
Your argument's void. They're
No,
tag
my
teams. I'm
argument
talking
isn't
about
void.
tag teams in WWE,
Okay.
and I just listed them. You said, who are the tag teams? I listed them.
Sure. And they're competing for that tag team belt. They're all striving for that.
I didn't say that. I
Okay,
said the
so
tag
then what's
team
the
belt
point of the tag
gives
team
the
division?
tag team division a
No.
goal.
That's
The belt gives the division a goal. Having the belt on credible people gives the division a reason for existence, unlike before, when you had to think about, as I said before, when you had to think about who were the tag team champions. Let's go to the phone lines. Glenn from Orlando, Florida. You are live on the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com.
Hey, guys.
Hey, Glenn. You know, I was thinking yesterday, I was sitting at home, and I'm thinking, I'm like, I'd really like to just be on OBT right now.
Because the weather?
No, pimps
No.
up, hose down, man. Got to keep your pimp hand strong.
Every time I go to Orlando, literally all I do is, I will make it a point, rather, to go to OBT and just drive from one end to the other.
And you want to talk about night and day. Glenn, you had a wrestling question that Damien distracted you from. Go ahead.
Well, I actually have two for you guys.
Okay.
Two short ones quickly. If and when Edge returns, do you think it would be a good thing to put him as a guest host and then make him return that way? And if he is a guest host before Mania, have it where he puts Jericho in a match against him at Mania?
Yeah, it's a possibility. It's something that's never been done yet, with the guest host spot where a guy puts himself into a match at a pay-per-view and, is an active – technically, Edge is an active wrestler on the roster, even though he's on the DL. He's an active wrestler on the roster. It's a new spin on it. Do they want to do that? And who knows? I mean, that's all hypothetical.
I don't think it makes much sense when Edge comes back in. It makes sense to throw him into a program straight away. That's a tribute to Raw being in the UK this week. They got to throw him into a program straight away and get him back into the mix of things because they need Edge.
Yeah. Now, as I hear correctly, I'm hearing that every single year from now on, SummerSlam will be at L.A.
WWE has
so far
announced that next year, 2010, SummerSlam will be featured in Los Angeles. I think it's a smart move. I think it's an interesting move on their part. For those of you that don't recall, back in the late 80s, early 90s, Survivor Series came from the Richfield Coliseum for a couple of years, and they did do a string of a couple of pay-per-views from the same city. Never twice, though, I don't think. So give it a try. Why not? Make it a staple at the Staples Center and give people something to look forward to every summer. It's, I think, a smart move on WWE's part. Glenn from Orlando, thank you very much for that call. We've got Brian holding on line 2 in Texas, and you can be a part of the show as well. The number 276-ESPN or 1-800-990-3776. This is the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com.
Subscribe to a podcast from your favorite show today at ESPNMilwaukee.com.
Welcome back to the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com. Little American Dream action there. I can just only recall picturing Sapphire, sweet Sapphire, dancing.
Swing! That's not what I picture when I hear this music. I picture me jumping up and going, I need more cowbell. I got a fever.
Thank you for joining the Pro Wrestling Report. We're live Tuesday, November 10th, 10 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. Actually, 10:18 p.m. Central Standard Time right now. You can join us on the phone lines. The number 276-3776, 276-3776, or 1-800-990-3776, 1-800-990-3776. Special thanks to our first caller, Glenn from Orlando. He tends to be the first caller every week, so maybe he can be
It's a mission.
We can just refer to him as caller 1. Back to WWE Raw from this past Monday night. Kofi Kingston's mega push evident. I, for one, continue to be intrigued in his storyline, and David Hero, who's listening at home, is now too. Jack Swagger. He made a vow that he would not lose another match in 2009. That vow would last for about 2 weeks. However, I think the payoff is worth it because it was The Miz, who's awesome, who caused him to lose that matchup on Raw and gives a little bit more fuel to their feud going forward.
Yeah, I don't understand how you can have heel versus heel. So is that going to make Swagger start to become a bit of a face? I don't get it. The two-time All-American isn't ready to be face yet.
Well, I don't think he's going to be in that role. I think The Miz is going to be somewhat like Stone Cold Steve Austin, where as a heel, he's going to be liked a lot by the fans and may end up being
he was over
a bit
in
of a
England.
face.
He was over in England last night because if you were listening close enough, Miz is awesome. Miz was he was over last night.
Let's go to the phone lines, and let's go down to Texas. Brian, you're live on the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com.
Yes, sir. How y'all doing?
Fine. Thanks for asking, Brian.
Okay, a couple of things. I want to know about Maurice. I heard that y'all put that she's supposed to come back at Survivor Series, and she put something on her Twitter that she's in Tampa. So that tells me that FCW is in Tampa, and maybe might be training to come back. And plus,
I think she may live in Tampa.
yes,
Do you know a lot of wrestlers and entertainers like to live in Florida, right?
yes,
It's tax-free.
and that
On the OBT.
Melina versus Alicia Fox this
Past
night in Madison Square Garden. Do you think that Melina would go over Alicia Fox?
Alicia Fox, unfortunately, is probably going to win the Divas Championship this coming Monday in Madison Square Garden, and she does not belong as the champion.
Yeah, I hope she don't win it. And
I thought Alicia had a very good match on
Alicia.
Monday.
yes, and one more thing about Ryder Piper. How is his condition? Last time I heard that he was kind of sick.
Well, there were rumors, unfounded rumors, that he was near death, and he's not sick. He's not
fell
near death.
ill.
He's fine.
No, he fell ill, but it was nothing close to what it been reported.
Yes, and one more thing on TNA side, I don't understand like the TNA Women's Tag Team Champion. I don't know why they created that title because there's only two teams going at it every month. It's the Beautiful People and Taylor Wilde and Sarita.
Well, they got sidetracked with the Angelina Love departure.
Yeah.
And I think that once they get beyond that, I think that we're probably going to see a little bit more of the tag team action as far as the knockouts are concerned in TNA wrestling. Brian, thank you very much for that call from Texas. Let's continue talking about WWE Raw. Remember, you can be with us on the phone lines at number 276-ESPN or 1-800-990-3776. Here's the part I don't get. We've got a main event at the Survivor Series on the Raw side of things, which is John Cena versus Shawn Michaels versus Triple H. Yet this past Monday night on Raw, all they really did was joke around with each other and play games. I ask, where's the build and where's the intrigue, and why should anyone care about this Survivor Series match coming up in just 1 week's time?
Well, the story that they're putting forward for you, Damien, is that John Cena apparently is using Hornswoggle to disrupt Shawn Michaels and Triple H and distract them from being focused on taking John Cena's title. That's what they're trying to tell you.
I don't think they've told us anything.
That's it. And it started this week.
They got a lot of work to do. Even pointed out by Jim Ross on his blog today that he expected to see a little bit more build of this feud, and really, there's nothing aside from having three big names in the main event or are fighting for that title. There's really, what reason does any one member of DX have for wanting John Cena's championship?
Except for to be the champion. And again, you're right. Jim
We're
Ross
supposed to believe
right.
they're happy as DX.
Well, they're happy because DX gets to play with the celebrity host every week. So, again, that's what WWE has been doing for, a couple years now? Just throwing big names right in the main event, mixing them around, twisting them around. They end up being the same. Finally we're getting Chris Jericho versus Undertaker on SmackDown. That's, 10 years in the making right there.
It's the first time ever for those two competitors. I'm pretty sure of that as well. Even that's what WWE is telling us. But Madison Square Garden will be the place where something goes down this upcoming Monday night. Roddy Piper's the guest host between those three men. Otherwise, what is this going to be, a comedy hour between these three for the WWE Championship and Survivor Series? It doesn't make much sense.
It doesn't, and no one cares. There's no emotional...
Oh, the people will care.
No,
they will
there's
care
no
about
emotional.
the participants.
There's no emotional investment in this at all. As you said, no build-up, no emotional investment.
Ricky Hatton was the guest host from Sheffield, England, this past Monday night. Meathead, your thoughts on how he did?
Ricky's taken a lot of punches to the face. He's not one for the TV screen, really. I like Ricky Hatton as a fighter. He definitely has a face made for radio, like myself. And other than that, he's got a thick accent, a little tough to understand him, but, that's from where he's from. So it's not like he's talking, out of his arse. Ricky Hatton did what he was supposed to do.
He's forgettable. I think come next week, no one will remember he was there. I think it was smart by WWE to utilize him for the live event
and we
crowd.
we talked about that a long time ago. When they go to England, who are they going to use as an English guest host? Who would they use? If they went to Belfast, would they use, somebody of that descent? Would they, it's smart to use somebody from the area when you go overseas, to capture the home crowd.
Let's go back to the phone lines. Let's go out to the West Coast. We've got Anthony in California who wants to discuss a little bit about the Survivor Series coming up next Sunday on pay-per-view. Anthony, you're live on the Pro Wrestling Report.
Hey there, guys.
What's up?
I was the one last week asking about probably they're going to have Survivor Series matches on the pay-per-view.
Mm-hmm.
But it looks like David Hero's right because we're going to have Team Michelle versus Team Team Mickey for the Divas match.
For the au jus.
But out of the two other matches, which I think were good, which one do you think will be better?
Well, certainly the Kingston-led team versus the Orton-led team. Now, did you notice the one thing that's interesting about that? Who's buried behind Kofi Kingston as part of that team?
The Caucasian.
MVP?
No, the ECW champion, Christian.
The Caucasian.
Yeah, he's listed on the last of the group.
Yeah, shouldn't he be captaining a team?
Yeah, there's people also complaining that CM Punk's not on the top of the list of Team Orton, so...
Yeah, good point.
I'm like, it's legacy, so, yeah.
Good point. You know what? Regardless of what happens, I am glad to see traditional Survivor Series matchups back. I always thought they were fun. They were intriguing. Can today's wrestling fans, including myself, endure a whole night of them? Absolutely not.
I know, because I'm one of those people who got the anthologies, and I just watched like the one that had 10 teams total against each other, and that matches were like almost an hour.
Yeah, but you know what? Those were worth watching because all of those characters, you actually believed all of those characters. WWE can't do that right now.
Especially
they don't have enough talent.
Have 10 teams.
They don't have enough talent built up to do more than 2 matches with the men and 1 match with the women. I mean, all the women that you know of are going to be in that match.
True, but you think if given time they can be like real good, or like, oh, they're here, that's it.
And you know that women's match may go 10 minutes tops.
I think it'll go longer. They've got
11,
it takes a little time to get them
11
go
minutes
through the elimination process.
11 minutes.
Anthony from California, thank you very much for that call. We're going to take a time out, and when we come back, we're going to talk to Ahmed in New Jersey and Melissa in West Dallas. This is the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com.
This is Packers wide receiver Greg Jennings, and you're listening to 540 ESPN.
Welcome back to the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com. We're also streaming live at PWRshow.com. Again, that's PWRshow.com, where you can check out this week's edition of the Pro Wrestling Report Interactive, which was pushed out to all of our followers on Twitter earlier this evening. So get that opportunity to watch the episodes before anybody else by following the Pro Wrestling Report, titled PWR Show on Twitter. And we answer a lot of questions in this week's Interactive, including whether or not Ric Flair is going to be going to TNA. We talk about Dixie Carter's role in TNA wrestling. And also, remember, you have the opportunity to submit us your video questions, and we will be including them in the show starting next week. Overall, your thoughts on WWE Raw, Meathead?
You know what, actually? Instead of giving it a big, I'm going to tell you what I liked in it. I actually enjoyed watching Swagger and Evan Bourne. I slowed down, and I sat and I watched it. I even rewound a couple spots in the match. I enjoyed watching that match. But the rest of it, you want me to be completely honest with you? Santino came out in a fat suit. Ha, 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 ha. That's even getting old for me. I mean, honestly.
I thought the show overall it did everything it should have done, but perpetuate any reason to care about the feud on top of the card for Survivor Series, and that is Cena and DX. I like what they did with The Miz. I like what they did with Kofi Kingston. I liked a lot of things that they did do. Let's go now to the phone lines on the East Coast. Ahmed in New Jersey. You're live on the Pro Wrestling Report.
How's it going, guys?
Great.
Hey, I just wanted, I had a few thoughts and then I had a question. I thought Raw was, the past 2 weeks have been pretty bad, I think, but the Kofi thing is amazing to watch, that they're actually, pushing him. But
I found it kind of funny to when MVP and Mark Henry were hosting the MVP Lounge to bring him out like he was the savior of Raw.
That was one heck of an introduction.
Yeah, he's the savior of Raw. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Kofi Kingston, our savior.
But that's what the people believe, and they see stuff like that. They gravitate towards it. They believe.
Don't get me wrong. I like it. It seemed a little overdone.
The best part about the VIP lounge was the security guard not letting Randy Orton and Legacy pass the velvet rope. That was a detail, a good WWE detail, just like Goldust's gold headset. It's the little details that they're so good at.
I had another thought. What was my question? You guys just talked about the top of the card at Survivor Series. I don't understand what's the storyline other than Hornswoggle. That's all I got from Raw last night, which was John Cena's protecting Hornswoggle. I know that's not a storyline.
That's the main reason, as we just talked about in segment 2. That's the main reason right now for that triple threat is John Cena is in the heads of Shawn Michaels and Triple H by using Hornswoggle. That's it. That's all you've got.
I just want to point out something. You guys sound a lot better with the new recording system and everything, but I was listening to it online, and for the first segment, it wasn't on.
Correct. We had some challenges getting the stream set for the first segment, so sorry that you missed that. But since you did miss that, what we're going to be talking about tonight, we're going to be previewing TNA's pay-per-view coming up this Sunday entitled Turning Point. We're also going to be talking about some new information regarding Shane McMahon's departure from WWE. We're going to play for you and discuss Dixie Carter's conversation with the talent from TNA Impact this past Thursday night. Also some information and discussion on TNA's house show business, along with this week in history and so much more. I'm Ed in New Jersey. Thank you very much for calling in. Let's go to Melissa, who is calling from West Dallas and wants to talk about Raw. Melissa, you're live.
Hi. Yeah. Okay. So the John Cena DX match. Who am I supposed to hate?
Exactly, and that's what we've been talking about over and over. And by the way,
who do you hate?
I have to start over.
No one.
I have to start over. Melissa, hey, you're a lady. Welcome to. Anyway,
who do you like?
Yeah, who do you like? I guess the most is. Are you
who do you like in that matchup?
Because I have his symbol as my tattoo, it has to be John Cena.
Okay.
Wait a minute, Melissa. Let's back up just a little bit. I'm not judging you. How long have you had this tattoo of John Cena's logo?
2 years.
And which logo is it?
I've had my Lita one for 3, and I've had my Edge one for a year.
Lita, Edge, fine. They have tattoos and such. It makes sense. John Cena, where is it located?
Right below my neck.
Oh, okay.
Actually, all 3 of them are along my shoulder and my back.
Well, listen, you got to send us some photos of those.
PG, please.
Those tattoos. I'd be very interested to see them and pass them along to some other people that might be interested in seeing them as well. Comments at pwrshow.com is the email address. Comments at pwrshow.com. Now, back in the day.
Go find Dave. Just find Dave Hero, and I got my pictures on my Facebook.
We don't want to have to work for it, Melissa. Come on now. We're busy men. Dave doesn't share anything with us.
Yeah, and who's this Dave Hero you talk about?
What? Now, all right. Okay, a John Cena tattoo, an Edge tattoo, a Lita tattoo. I appreciate that. That's an interesting tidbit, a good tidbit. But you don't care about the main event for the Survivor Series. Now, do you plan on ordering the Survivor Series?
I don't own cable. I go out and watch them.
Oh, smart lady, smart lady.
But see, that's a great thing. I don't have to pay to see them. And then if I think they're crap, I don't go buy them on DVD. I mean, one of the best Survivor Series that I had to own right after it came out was Survivor Series 2006. And it had nothing to do with, well, it did have a lot to do with Lita's last match and me hating Crime Time forever for what they did to her. But also the DX match against whatever that other team was just amazing. Because you had all those guys, and then you had every single guy knocked out. It just made me laugh off the floor.
Well, Melissa, thank you very much for calling in and giving your perspective on that main event for the Survivor Series coming up next week on pay-per-view. Let's not forget, we do have a TNA pay-per-view between now and then. Next week, we are going to share with you some of our favorite Survivor Series moments and some of the best Survivor Series events as we see them. This is the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com.
540 ESPN. Talk Packers all day long on 540 ESPN.
Welcome back to the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com. We're live Tuesday night, November 10th, 2009. Damian Nelson, the band they call Meathead, here live from the 540 ESPN studios. Dave Hero not able to join us tonight. He's got him and the Cal, our senior intern, are working on a special project. And Frank Cosentino, the Cos, is somewhere in the world right now. But be that
defending
as it may,
truth and justice somewhere.
Yeah, Frank wears a cape.
Him and Carmen Sandiego. You can be a part of the show. The number 276-3776. Again, 276-3776 or 1-800-990-ESPN. And let's go back to the phone lines. We've got Bowman from Boston. Welcome back to the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
What's up, Bowman?
I just wanted to talk about a few things, such as Survivor Series, the pay-per-views, and sort of some of what's going on with the current talent. The first thing, Survivor Series to me seems like a pretty interesting pay-per-view so far. I like what they're doing with the traditional Survivor Series matches, and really putting some of the younger and newer guys into that mix and it seems like they're putting a better emphasis on it than they have done in the past.
Yeah. I would tend to agree. I think the card overall is shaping up to be pretty decent going into it. The only challenge I have, or the only challenge they have, is getting people to care about the outcome of they'll care about the match, but to care about the outcome of the Cena DX match.
I think what the outcome of that is somewhere along the line that's going to, I'm assuming that's going to cause friction between DX somehow. And
misplaced sweet chin music.
Sure, and we've talked about that before, where we think that, at least I have said, that Triple H, Shawn Michaels may be at WrestleMania.
Yeah, I think that's a good possibility. And speaking of WWE and the pay-per-views, I really feel they've been riding the wave of SummerSlam, of how good that pay-per-view has come up into a lot of their other pay-per-views. And I think they really have been delivering pretty well on a lot of the pay-per-views they've been putting out. Maybe not so much Hell in a Cell, but I think Bragging Rights delivered well, but I don't think they presented the concept well enough for people to kind of get it. But I do think Bragging Rights came off very well. And I think that's a pay-per-view a lot of people are going to get into the next time it comes around. And I do think Survivor Series coming around is shaping up to be really, really good. So it's giving you the same feeling that sort of SummerSlam had, where it's feeling like one of the big events that's coming out.
Yeah, and I'm kind of happy too, again, that as you've mentioned and Damien has mentioned and I mentioned, at least there are some Survivor Series style matches. Unfortunately, like I said, the one match, Team Orton versus Team Kofi, it just feels like that there's one main eventer and 9, mid-carders. That's how it feels to me.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I don't think the fans are going to react to that. If the fans are reacting to Kofi, I think they're taking his team a lot more serious. Although it is, I have to point out, it's Team Nation of Domination. Clearly, they can get Mark Henry must be in some type of deja vu right now.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But I definitely and then speaking of sort of as you were going into sort of about the 9 other mid carders there, I kind of like what WWE is doing right now and what their shift is with the mid card talent. They really are, I think, now going with who is getting the reaction.
Absolutely.
Such as Kofi Kingston, such as The Miz, such if you go to ECW, look at Yoshitatsu. He's getting a genuine reaction. They're going
and a spot on the Abraham Washington show.
They're really going for those guys that are getting these reactions now, and they're not they're kind of shelving what's not so much. And I think I know you guys are big fans of, but I think CM Punk was a not so much of a reaction kind of guy. That I think the fans kind of reacted to him better than what he did in the first title run, but I think they still kind of looked at like, who is this 100-pound guy?
But he's got great heat, does CM Punk, especially from that program with Jeff Hardy. I think they executed that flawlessly.
But that's Jeff Hardy. That's an all-time fan favorite. Like, the only reason people care about Batista right now, he's fighting Rey Mysterio. You can put anybody against Rey Mysterio, and they're gonna get that heel heat out of it. Personally, I think Chris Masters doing the Peck things last week it made him more interesting than Batista ever was.
I tell you what, it made it go back in like a scared turtle into its shell.
Maybe they're gonna have a peck off.
Yeah, but
did you say peck off?
As in pectoral muscles.
Bowman,
Batista
go ahead.
and
Bowman. Bowman.
I'm just gonna let that one just sit.
Yeah.
Hey, it's better than what Meathead said. At least it was clean.
It's still a fail.
What else you got?
That's pretty much it. What I could think of right now, and I think, like I said, I really like what they're doing the younger talent. Also with Miz, I really want to put out look at how far Miz has come, and I kind of feel that. I think a lot of people kind of crapped on Miz in the very beginning.
Especially JBL.
And everybody should have.
And I was a Miz fan from the get-go. I remember from the rear wall. That's when I originally saw him. But I was a Miz fan from the get-go. And when they teamed Miz and Morrison together, and the point of that team, to be honest, was probably because Morrison didn't have any mic skills, Miz did, and the point of that whole team was to somehow get Morrison, the guy, to be over. Because if you ever looked at those matches, and looked at their matches, and even going towards sort of the later part of their team, Miz was doing most of the work and in-ring work, and Morrison was kind of coming in, filling in the high spots of it.
But the thing about the Miz is, the moment he showed up on screen back in the day, I knew that one word was going to cause me to have zero desire to see him, and that was hoorah.
Fans were doing the hoorah though. They
were doing it. They were doing it in the arenas. Doesn't mean that they bought into the Miz, but they were doing it.
I don't think they bought into him too much at that time. But now he has I'm the Miz and I'm awesome, and I really think he's going to be someplace big next year. I think next year, if he's not in any type of title match or WrestleMania, I think he could be a potential Money in the Bank winner, just because of what he's doing. He's getting a very genuine.
I see him in the Money in the Bank. But I don't see him winning it.
Solid car reaction. I don't know. I think it could happen now. The last Money in the Bank winner was CM Punk.
The last 2 years.
Last 2 years, but they haven't had a heel in a little while, so
Kennedy.
I could. The reaction he got when he won that thing clearly was anything but heel.
Yeah, you're right.
The fans clearly popped. The fans clearly popped. They built him as heel, but the fans clearly popped on when he stood in the top of that stage and did his little, his mic hit right there. So, but like I said, I'm very excited with what WWE is doing right now. I think they're really developing. I think they're really delivering very well on the pay-per-view and doing a good job of developing the talent they have there with Jack Swagger and those guys, and finally giving them the.
And a lot of people are in denial that they are building new talent, and I think they have been for quite a while. I think
they have been too.
I think it's
agree with
glaringly obvious right now, and I commend them for doing it. Bowman, thank you very much for the call. We want to remind everybody, coming up this Friday night, actually not a reminder, but an announcement, coming up this Friday, the Pro Wrestling Report Prime Time on Time Warner Cable, Channel 14, right after WWE SmackDown in southeastern Wisconsin, and on demand at PWRshow.com. Tracy Brooks is our special guest, her first time appearing on the program. I have a sit-down interview with Tracy Brooks, who talks about Hulk Hogan coming into TNA Wrestling, talks about the knockouts in TNA Wrestling, talks about some things in her personal life, talks about, obviously, her appearance in Playboy, the likes of which 100 million people have seen. That's Tracy Brooks this Friday on the Pro Wrestling Report Prime Time. She's we got to start our own Divas line. Let's see, we've got Christy Hemme a couple times, we've got Sunny, we've got Sherry Martel, we've now got Tracy Brooks as well. Dawn Marie's been on this program, and Tracy Brooks, the latest in line of beautiful females who are joining us on the Pro Wrestling Report. And that's this Friday on the Pro Wrestling Report Prime Time.
Had that one girl from the bar.
Still to come tonight on the Pro Wrestling Report, we're going to preview TNA's Turning Point pay-per-view. We're going to talk about Shane McMahon's departure from WWE. We're going to share with you that address that Dixie Carter made to the TNA talent on last Thursday, its impact, and then talk about it. And still taking your phone calls, the number 276-ESPN or 1-800-990-ESPN. This is the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com.
For the latest interviews, blogs, contests, and more, log on today to the all-new ESPNMilwaukee.com.
I spit in the face of people who don't want to be cool.
Welcome back to the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com. How cool was Carlito?
Is the proper vernacular there.
Damian Nelson, the man they call Meathead. We're live Tuesday, November 10th, 2009. Thank you for joining us, listening live on your iPhone or on 540 ESPN or ESPNMilwaukee.com. We're also talking live with listeners all over the world at PWRshow.com and our live chat. And just before we took that time out, Meathead, we were talking about our guest coming up this Friday on Primetime, Tracy Brooks. It's an interview you certainly want to see.
Have you seen her naked yet,
sure.
Damien?
I don't know if this is the place or time to talk about this.
No. It is, because that's one of the things she's going to talk to you about is the fact that
Which is why we're going to wait till Friday.
But have you seen her naked?
Which is why we're going to wait till Friday.
Do you like girls? Have you seen girls naked? Anyways, go ahead.
Let's go now to talk about TNA and its house show business. TNA not in reference to what we were just talking about, but Total Nonstop Action Wrestling. TNA Wrestling, they've had some challenges with their fledgling house show business. It's been around. They've been doing house shows for the last year plus, and we had the opportunity to go to a house show in Racine, Wisconsin a couple of weeks ago where they drew about 700 people, one of the best draws that they've had on their house show tour. They recently actually had to cancel a house show, reason ungiven, but it's rumored to have been because of low ticket sales. And basically, in general, what's going on all over the country is TNA is having difficulties drawing more than 500 people to their house show events. Now, you look at the amount of money it takes and the amount of resources it takes to put these shows on, And you compare that to World Wrestling Entertainment. Now, obviously, you're looking at a 3 million viewer difference on one program if you compare Impact to Raw, even though WWE has many more programs which garner millions upon millions of viewers a week. When you look at WWE's numbers, they're averaging about 5,000, 5,500 or so people per live event, which includes their television tapings and pay-per-views. Let's not forget that point. But for TNA to be traveling all over this country and drawing total number of people at the events of 500, sometimes less, sometimes slightly more, that's not paid, 500 total. Is this a problem for the company? Absolutely. Now, what are some of the reasons that those numbers might be so low? I, for one, am at a loss. I thought the show that we went to in Racine a couple of weeks ago was a good show. However, it certainly was missing certain things. Those certain things being the stars you see on TV. I would venture to say the biggest stars that you saw on that show in Racine were AJ Styles, Scott Steiner, Matt Morgan, and that's about it. And that's not knocking the rest of the talent, but WWE also, you don't see The Undertaker on house shows. You don't see Triple H on every house show, John Cena on every house show, but they have a deep enough roster where other stars can support. TNA probably should start considering bringing a few more people on the road.
They should, but do you think they're going to? I mean, the lure of TNA to most of the talent that goes there is the lighter schedule, the not having to be on the road. The more established veterans that don't want to have to go do house shows, they just want to show up for TV, do their thing, and go back home and do their life. So how are they going to bring more talent? They were so thin at talent that Kiyoshi wrestled twice. One guy reffed and wrestled. We won't mention who it is, but
there are people on the card, in the company right now who regularly do house shows, such as Kurt Angle, Mick Foley, Beer Money, and keep in mind they were out due to an injury, I believe, and not able to compete. Chris Sabin not able to compete due to that injury as well from the taping that we've talked so much about when Kevin Nash lashed out. No British Invasion, no Team 3D. These are people who have been on the house show tours regularly, and they are not consistently on the tour. So while they do have those challenges of not being able to utilize everybody, the expectation, I think, of the fans when they go to these shows is that they're going to see the same stars they see on TV, because that's what wrestling fans have been made accustomed to over the years of going to live events.
Not necessarily true, because WWE does give you maybe the top 3 matches of guys that you regularly will root for or root against. The rest of them are filled with guys that you don't care about. And then if you go back even farther with WCW shows, those were the drizzlings. Those, we went, but honestly, for the most part, they just weren't worth going to at all. But what was funny was, I don't know what they got paid, but I've mentioned this over and over. Last WCW house show that I went to was Hogan Flair in the main event.
The problem is they need to put some of the larger names on those shows and have them out there consistently, because when they come back to some of these markets, they won't have the fans. This is the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com.
We'll do it live. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Thing sucks.
You see, KYJ, things have changed just a little bit since the last time you were here. I think you should see your oculist. Nothing wrong with my feet. I'm talking about your eyes.
I can even make my ass do tricks. Watch this.
You have any idea where you are? You're in the jungle, baby. This is WCW. That's right. Hold on.
For over 10 years, the world's #1 source for professional wrestling news and information. And once again, here's your hosts, Damian Nelson, Frank Cosentino, and the man they call Meathead. This is the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN.
Welcome to Hour 2 of the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN. Thank you for joining us. We're live Tuesday, November 10th, 2009, all over the world on ESPNMilwaukee.com and PWRshow.com, and in southeastern Wisconsin on 540 ESPN. Damian Nelson, the man they call Meathead, here live from the downtown Milwaukee studios of 540 ESPN. Dave Hero and Frank Cosentino not able to join us tonight. Dave Hero obviously working on the event coming up in just a few weeks, Blizzard Brawl 5. Bobby the Brain Heenan making his very first appearance at a wrestling show in over 3 years. You can join us on the phone lines, the number 276-ESPN. Again, that's 276-3776, or all over the world at 1-800-990-3776. Again, that's 1-800-990-3776. And we're also live at the PWR Chatmosphere at PWRshow.com, our very own website, absolutely free. All you need to do is register to be a part of the chat and discussion live at PWRshow.com. Before we took that time out, we were talking about TNA's house show business, and what they want to see is growth. And what they haven't seen is substantial growth. Now, the question I ask, though, is going to the markets they're going to. What a lot of people don't realize is WWE basically plans its live event and TV taping business based off of television ratings. They bring shows to towns, especially televised shows, to towns where they know they're going to draw a crowd at the venue because people are watching the show on TV. TNA, obviously, not to the point where they have the viewership, or the foundation of a house show business already to be as advanced. But is it that every new town they're going to, is this a calculated risk? Is this an investment in the future? Let's say they draw 500 fans, 300 of which are paid, 200 new fans come in, and these are 200 more people in every city going around the country that are now going to watch Impact and then are now familiar with the TNA product.
You got to keep building. And you know what? If they're going out to, say, Racine, Wisconsin, the greatest spectacle in Racine, and putting on a show for 600 people or 700 people that were in the door, it doesn't matter how many paid for the tickets. They already were going to lose money by going in the building anyway. By traveling all the way from Orlando up till, Milwaukee area, southeastern Wisconsin, they were going to lose money from paying for the talent, from paying for the building, putting together, the ring crew. I mean, I understand they were bare bones, but they're still going to not make money. So it's an investment.
Let's move on, and the next thing to talk about, some news has developed as it pertains to Shane McMahon's departure from WWE. And quite frankly, a lot of it is bull that's out there right now based off of what we've been able to confirm. Here's what we have seen reported out there in the IWC, and that is that Shane McMahon left WWE basically because he had an argument with Vince McMahon. Now, Vince McMahon has given some credence to that potential story by saying the following on the third quarter conference call of WWE last week when asked about Shane and Linda's departure from the company. And I quote, "The other aspect of family, because some people perceive this to be a family business, but I do not." He said it with just that much emphasis. "But nonetheless," and I continue to quote, "but nonetheless, my son Shane, as well, has decided to pursue other opportunities in the marketplace. Nonetheless, I've mentioned before that the strength of our management team is stronger now than it has ever been. And even if your last name is McMahon or not, decisions are always made on your abilities in terms of whatever position you hold now and or will in the future, and be judged on your performance, not because your last name is McMahon. So I'm pretty strong on that as well. And other than that, we will entertain questions from everyone. And I hope there would be any number of them." So Vince basically saying that it doesn't matter what your name is, doesn't matter if you're his kid. Vince is gone. Shane is gone, Linda is gone, and the company's going to continue because they have a strong management team in place.
Yeah, and we've talked about this before. Linda obviously going off and trying the political arena. Shane, he grew up in the business. Granted, it may not be, according to Vince, a family business, but he grew up in the business and it wants to try something else. He's built enough personal wealth. He's built enough of a name where he can go out. We've talked about MMA for Shane. Who's to say he won't go into Hollywood and try to produce movies, try to produce television? I mean, there's so many avenues that he could go down that he has already, a wealth of a background. He's college educated. It's not like he only did wrestling his entire life. I mean, he went to school. He helped run WWE. What was his highest title in World Wrestling Entertainment?
His title for the last several years, including upon his departure, was the Vice President of New Media. Included the online options and, and a lot of the other things such as on demand.
He has so many different, revenue streams that he could open up for himself, or different venues that he can go in and try to create something. He's taken care of. Don't cry over Shane McMahon. He'll be okay.
The story that's out there is that it was this argument between he and Vince, and perhaps this was an argument that was the last straw, but we don't know at this point what Shane is going to be doing going forward. There are a couple of rumors out there and a couple of thoughts and ideas. But before we get to that, the questions that need to be asked are, do you think Shane's lack of control in the company had anything to do with his departure. When you sit back and look, being the son of Vince McMahon, and looking at Stephanie McMahon running the creative end of things, basically, her husband Triple H with significant influence in the company, Vince McMahon running the day-to-day business, and Shane sort of there on the side, where he has chosen to be for a very long time, by the way. Did the writing potentially become clear on the wall for Shane McMahon and realize, this thing ain't coming to me, this thing's going to Triple H, why am I here? Let's go make a name for myself.
No, that's all speculation.
Well, that's what I said. It's a question.
Right. It's all speculation. Shane put himself where he was at. He wanted to keep his family first, and his family not including Vince McMahon and Stephanie McMahon. He has a wife. He has children.
If he wanted to put his family first, he wouldn't have fallen 40 feet off the top of the SummerSlam set back in the late 90s. He had a family then, too.
Yeah, but he also thought that he could protect himself, which he did. But Shane put his family first, and so the positions in the company that he took were ones that would allow him to be with his family more than, say, being on the road for every Raw and every SmackDown and ECW and pay-per-view and so forth.
That, too, being an assumption, I would say that Shane, at a time, he was close. He was side by side with Vince McMahon in almost everything he did the late 90s and the early 2000s. Stephanie swooped in, basically, and was put in the role of creative. And I'm not saying whether she should or shouldn't be in that role, but if you're Shane McMahon and you're looking at this thing and you're realizing that this isn't you, it isn't your spot, it isn't going to be your spot, does he not move along to another opportunity? And that opportunity could be basically what a lot of people are saying, one of two things. Either starting up a mixed martial arts organization, which could be a very strategic move by World Wrestling Entertainment's Vince McMahon, because they've been flirting with this idea of an MMA league for a very long time. They know basically what the failures of the XFL were. If they detach Shane McMahon, if Shane McMahon detaches himself from WWE, Shane McMahon gets latched on to a mixed martial arts production. Shane McMahon, without being attached to WWE, then has credibility, and there's not that WWE influence yet. However, there could still be the WWE bankroll to the thing. This could be a very smart play by dad and son. I think that has a lot more merit to it, though, than what a lot of people are saying, which is Shane going to TNA.
No,
there would have to have
silliness.
been. It's possible. Is there anything else in this business? But I think there would have it would be a malicious act by Shane, and there would have had to have been a tremendous falling out, which there may have been, by the way. None of us were backstage. None of us heard the conversation, but there does seem to be some ill will. But it would be a tremendously malicious act for Shane to go over to TNA, and I'm not sure what benefit or what trust anybody would have in Shane coming into TNA, because quite frankly, if I were running that company, I'd look at it as, this man is here from his dad. He is here to ruin and destroy this company, which, quite frankly, some people have said Hulk Hogan is there for.
Well, apparently that must be what Vince Russo was to do and take down WCW.
There were rumors of that at the time
that's
as well.
Super silly. It's ridiculous.
WCW's gone, though.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I can't believe that's something that actually, is still being bounced around. It's like, Bigfoot still existing. It's just the silliest thing I've ever heard. Now, Shane McMahon being separated from World Wrestling Entertainment and trying off the MMA, yeah, you're right. In a smart business sense, if you believed it, he would be away from Vince McMahon. But we're talking about the general population. He's a McMahon. And if he were to try MMA, who's to say that they wouldn't bring up, well, he was also involved in the XFL. He was also involved in WWE. How do we believe a word coming out of this guy's mouth? I mean, he's got the stink of being a McMahon and being in the wrestling business, and that will stick with him for the rest of his life. If he wants to do something, I think he needs to do something completely separate, even though I've said over and over, maybe he is going to start the MMA. But it's still, people are going to feel that it may have a wrestling aspect to it. That's why the XFL failed. It's because when the WWE saw that things weren't going exactly their way, they inserted sports entertainment into football. But well,
they went to what they knew.
Right, exactly.
And I can't fault them for that, but I think Shane
I can
McMahon,
because it cost them their business.
Yeah, but so did Vince Russo cost WCW its business.
According to you.
Indeed. But Shane McMahon, just having the last name McMahon, I don't think has any negative connotations to it. The problem with the XFL, the World Bodybuilding League, and IcoPro was that it was WWE owned. It was WWE operated. And if you take a person who merely was associated in the past with it and put them in a position where they're no longer with it but running something else, doing something else, they have a lot more ability to be credible. Jesse Ventura became the governor of Minnesota. Look what he did in professional wrestling.
Yeah, but look at the people of Minnesota. That's a joke, folks. Please, Minnesota, don't come find me.
That includes Ken Anderson. See if he
Anderson
has words for you like King Kong Bundy did last week.
But Ken Anderson, according to his Facebook page, spent the first 26 of his life in Wisconsin. So he may live in Minneapolis or Minnesota or wherever he's from, but he's born and bred Wisconsin.
Interesting conversation going on about Shane McMahon. Again, new information coming out over the last few weeks. Lots of discussion about, last few days rather, lots of discussion about Shane McMahon. We'll see what happens. I expect him to turn up with some mixed martial arts business or something in the entertainment field before anything else were to happen. This is the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com.
Talk Packers all day long on 540 ESPN.
You think you know me?
Welcome back to the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com. We're live Tuesday, November 10th, 2009. Damian Nelson, the man they call Meathead, here coming to you from the 540 ESPN studios. Lots of discussion so far, including Shane McMahon's departure from WWE Raw from last night. But let's talk about ECW from tonight. William Regal would have his chance again at Christian's ECW championship, and I really thought he might actually win it this time, but that would not be the case. A great match between Christian and William Regal. William Regal not able to regain the ECW championship.
Regal regain? He's never been ECW champion.
That is true, to gain the ECW championship.
I thought you said regain. My apologies.
How about your thoughts on the match? What you saw of it?
I didn't see much of it because I was in travel to the studio, so Christian won. I thought it was going to be his night as well.
Well, that was ECW tonight. Let's talk about pay-per-view coming up this Sunday night. It's TNA's Turning Point. Let's go match by match and talk about this show coming up from TNA Wrestling this Sunday.
Come on, you're supposed to be the TNA mark. Put a little more love into that.
Well, Bobby Lashley versus Scott Steiner is the first match we're going to talk about.
That's the boss.
I like what they've tried to do with this, trying to personalize the storyline with Scott Steiner going after Crystal, not Marshall anymore, but Crystal Lashley, his wife, Bobby Lashley's wife. I'm not sure what kind of style we're going to see in this match because Steiner's a brawler, and I guess to a degree Lashley's a brawler as well, but I'm not sure what I think I'm going to get out of that match or who's going to win. Well, clearly it's going to be Lashley.
Oh, clearly, huh? You heard that over the chicken, Kiev?
I think it's pretty definite that Lashley's going to win that
I'll
match.
take Lashley,
unless
too.
the storyline continues.
I'll take Lashley, too, just because you said it was going to be, because he must have heard it over the reheated corn.
There's never any corn at catering.
What do they serve?
Food.
What kind?
Kurt Angle versus Desmond Tutu.
Desmond Wolfe, dude.
Oh.
Desmond Tutu couldn't. Desmond Tutu would be blown up before he got into the ring.
Kurt Angle versus Desmond Wolfe. We saw this match on
Wolf.
Impact.
There's an L and an F in it.
We saw this match on Impact a couple of weeks ago. I think it was a good precursor to what might happen this Sunday on Turning Point. We know both men can turn it up. We know both men can deliver in the ring. This seems to be Desmond Wolfe's time, and I would actually like to see him win this matchup.
Won't happen. But, it'll be a good match. Nigel, Desmond, whatever we're calling him, Wolf, with an L. It'll be a good match. They're going to put on a good wrestling match. You're going to see a lot of strikes from Wolf. I mean, not a lot of wrestling. You're going to see Kurt do the wrestling moves, a little amateur, a little professional. But Kurt's going to go over in the end.
6 sides of steel, a steel cage TNA Knockouts matchup. The participants, Tara and Awesome Kong.
Yeah.
I have said for a long time, and it has happened, that Awesome Kong is back to being the monster. That's what she should be. She should be the uncontrollable beast. And that is the role she has played in ever since dumping Raisha Saeed.
Well, that's
and we
exactly
see now
why.
a cage matchup coming up this Sunday on TNA's Turning Point between her and Tara.
That's exactly why. If you're going to make her a monster, make it because she's not under someone's leash, under someone's control. You know, Raisha Saeed is separate now from Kong, so Kong is out of control, and there's no one to rein her in. So if it's going to go that way for you, Damon, yeah, they're doing it exactly right. I see Kong going over this one.
All Knockouts titles will be on the line, specifically the women's, the World Knockouts Championship and the Tag Team Knockouts Championships. The participants are the Tag Team Champions, Sarita and Taylor Wilde, going up against the Ladies Champion, ODB, and the Beautiful People. All titles on the line. I don't know. I could see the Beautiful People winning the tag strips, I guess, to keep them moving. But I would see ODB walking out, still the Knockouts champion. But where does she go from there?
I'm confused by just the match in general. Honestly, it's like the tag team match at it's like the tag team match at BFG. Even though I called that correctly, they never announced that it was going to happen that way. Where the first team to go up the ladder and get whatever set of titles got that title, and then the other team that went up and got the other set of titles got that title, and it's just confusing. They're putting too much work. Too many stipulations into these matches. You're confusing the fans. Not because I'm not confused. I understand what's happening, but it's just too much work. A fan wants to watch and just enjoy what's going on. I do see ODB keeping her women's belt, but I don't have an answer for the tag belts.
The X Division Championship will be on the line when Amazing Red takes on Homicide. Amazing Red, the current champion.
With his hype man, Don West.
I do like the build that's been going into Amazing Red, and I do think this is going to be a very entertaining match between these two men this Sunday at TNA's Turning Point on pay-per-view.
Amazing Red, I really don't care. I could care less about him. Not that he's a bad person, a good person. I just don't care. I mean, I'm not invested in this guy at all. And Don West is there to, as I said, be his hype man. Because Amazing Red can't talk on the mic. I mean, he even admitted it when he was given the microphone. I'm not very good. I'm not the, hype myself up guy. I'm just the guy that shows it in the ring. And that's what Don West is for. But Don West, all he does is just sometimes stays at ringside. Sometimes he doesn't even come down to the ring. He stays at the announcer's table. I don't get it.
I think it'll be a very entertaining matchup between those two superstars, or those two talents, rather, Amazing Red and Homicide. The X Division Championship will be on the line. The TNA Tag Team Championships will be on the line as the British Invasion, Spirit Squad 2009, takes on the Motor City Machine Guns, Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley.
Now, this is a match I'm looking forward to. British Invasion with Damian Nelson's next big thing for 2010.
He won't be in the match.
Rob Terry will be at ringside, if you'd let me finish.
Potentially.
Rob Terry, Damian Nelson's next big thing for 2010. Rob Terry will be there. I see him getting involved. I see the Motor City Machine Guns winning and becoming new tag team champions.
The TNA World Heavyweight Championship will be on the line in a matchup pitting the champion AJ Styles defending his title against Samoa Joe and Daniels. Now, this, of course, is a bit of a throwback to 3 or 4 years ago. I believe the pay-per-view event was Unbreakable in 2005, where they had a tremendous matchup that wasn't on top of the card. It was for the X Division Championship. We are supposed to, I guess, look back into the annals of time and hope that this match is as good as that one. I think this one's been a bit overhyped, but I do enjoy the potential of this matchup between these three men, but with Hogan coming in and TNA is clearly moving in a different direction. We'll get to more of that in a minute when we go to Dixie Carter's comments. We shouldn't be dwelling on 4 years ago.
Yeah, and to be honest, with Hogan coming in, kind of overshadows the title match. So even though your diehard TNA fans will remember the match between the three of them, I'm going to go back to something David Octavius Hero said. AJ Styles is the champion, and his two #1 contenders were guys that lost at the last pay-per-view. How did they get their spot in the main event? Well, it makes no sense. There's no continuity in the storyline.
The way they've explained it is that they are giving the fans a match that they loved again. Whether it's valid or not, that's the explanation they've gone with.
I
buy it. If it's valid, they did both lose,
also
but they are viable contenders.
They're most likely going to reveal who the secret attacker is going to be as well, the person. And it's not Joe and it's not Daniels because those two guys were in the ring when AJ got beat up, on his way to the ring. Again, it's supposed to be Tomko, I believe.
This from the man who sits here and yells at Dave Hero about spoilers.
No, it's not confirmed. It's just a speculation.
Overall, I think
That's speculation, not a spoiler.
Overall, I think this show is built pretty good. I like what's going on with Kurt Angle and Desmond Wolfe. I like especially the fact that Kurt Angle is doing everything in his power to put Desmond Wolfe over. I like that, Awesome Kong as the monster heel. I like her going up against Tara. I'm intrigued by what we're going to see between Amazing Red and Homicide. I am liking the British Invasion more and more and more with each passing week. And we'll see if they're able to keep the tag team titles.
That's changed the way, because you started off saying you didn't like it, but I guess it's the way the pay-per-view started that you didn't like.
Well, I mean, it's...
Because you went, ugh.
Well, no, that was actually not tied to the pay-per-view. I just sort of played along with it.
Okay.
But
I'm sorry.
The British Invasion, they've turned into
They got nice jumpsuits.
Let's look at where Brutus Magnus has come from and where he's going. I think he is a sleeper story in TNA. Remember when he first came in from American Gladiators, at least in the UK, with that ridiculous outfit he had.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
They peeled that off. He started wrestling again, His talent has grown over the course of the last few months, and I don't know where he's getting training at or where he's performing in the ring regularly, because obviously TNA comes together twice a month, and we haven't seen him on a lot of or all of the house show tours, but he's been on a good number of them. But Brutus Magnus has really improved a lot. I can't say that for Rob Terry.
You can, because he's your next big thing for 2010, but I will let you know who told you about Brutus Magnus. It'd be this guy right here, the man they call Meathead, who, when we did a show on PWR television, we asked who the next big guys were going to be, and I threw out Brutus Magnus. I got guffawed, if you will, but Brutus Magnus improves every day.
When we come back, we're going to replay those comments from Dixie Carter, the president of TNA Wrestling, from Impact this past Thursday, and then we're going to give you a chance to give us your feedback on it, and we'll give you ours. This is the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com.
Join the 540 ESPN Text Club today. Get details at ESPNMilwaukee.com.
Fish, you are the all-star tonight. I don't think we've ever used Hacksaw Jim Duggan's theme on this show.
You never have?
He's been on this program as well. Tough guy.
Tough guy!
You know, we're talking about Survivor Series. Hacksaw Jim Duggan actually led a team one year, and they did a choreographed thing with 2x4s on Superstars in the ring. One of the most awesome things I think.
They were the 4x4s, right? Was that the team name?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Actually, yes. We'll have to get that
Fishy, you're the man.
We'll have to get that clip and put it up on PWRshow.com.
Can I get one more?
Oh! Hey, you know what else you'll like, too? Your partner over at the Fantasy Sports Weekly was almost choked out by Hacksaw Jim
Get
Douglas.
out!
We have it on video at PWRshow.com.
That is awesome.
He started shaking Frank by the neck.
That's why Frank don't take bumps, and he runs faster than Michael Cole when wrestlers come near him. This is the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com. Damian Nelson, the band they call Meathead, here with you live Tuesday, November 10th, 2009. David Hero and Frank Cosentino, the Cos, not able to join us tonight. However, the discussion has been heated as even without them. But let's talk about the next topic, which is Dixie Carter's role in TNA Wrestling. This is something we're actually going to discuss in more detail, or do discuss in more detail, on this week's edition of the Pro Wrestling Report Interactive Q&A, which is available at PWRshow.com and on YouTube as we speak. But I think the way to really set the foundation for this is to really share with everyone our first glimpse at Dixie Carter in a leadership role for the TNA roster and for the fans at home. Let's go now to what Dixie Carter had to say to the TNA locker room this past Thursday on Impact.
Since I was named president 6 years ago, I've had a lot of people telling me how to run a wrestling company. And while I appreciate their contributions, it's time for a change. We've had a lot of great things going on in this company. We've made a lot of changes in the last few months that I'm sure you've seen, and we made a bigger change even last week. I can assure you that we'll have more changes coming in the coming weeks and the coming months as well. Nobody likes drastic change. Nobody likes big moves. I understand that. And it affects different people different ways. And while I respect that those of you out there might have differing opinions of the decisions that I'm making, I expect you to support me 100%. When you question things in this company, you're questioning me. And I cannot allow that to happen. Business is about choices. I've made the choice to put my finances, my reputation, my passion, my love behind each and every one of you and this company. And it's time for you to do the same thing. You have a choice to make. You can choose to support me. You can choose to support the direction TNA is going, or you can choose not to. But you'll need to find another place to work. It's time for us to swing for the fences. It really is. No great success comes without risk, and I'm great with that. I hope you are too. Now's our time. I look out at the faces that have made this company, and you've made me very proud. But this is a test. So I'm asking all of you to step it up in every way possible. And let's do this thing together, because now's our time, and you've got to believe it. If you don't believe it, you're hurting the person sitting next to you. You're hurting me, you're hurting our fans. But if you believe it, let's do this thing together, and let's show what everybody we're all about.
Well, that was TNA President Dixie Carter last Thursday night, opening up TNA Impact. As I said, really our first glimpse of Dixie in a leadership role on Impact. Keep in mind, Dixie Carter was on this program about a month and a half ago and said a lot of the same stuff about the changes coming to TNA and about a lot of things that were going on in the company. But, Mina, let's dissect what she said. And really the statement that I come from that with is this. No great success comes without risk. And I think that they have certainly taken a lot of risks. Ultimately, the biggest risk is that with Hulk Hogan coming into the company. But Dixie Carter, a smart businesswoman. Whether or not the wrestling business is the business that she's smartest in is yet to be seen. But also saying she's been told for 6 years by a lot of people how to run a wrestling company. And those days are no more.
Yeah, you know, Dixie Carter, up until even the last year, Damien, never seen on camera. Now we've seen her, you know, referenced by Joe during the one pay-per-view where Scott Hall no-showed.
I think Rhino as well after the Lashley thing.
Right, referenced by Rhino. You know, brought on to talk with Bobby Lashley. You know,
he's the boss.
I think she's really put herself in the proper position. She didn't make herself weak. She really made herself strong. And if you looked across, you know, and you and I do this. I mean, a lot of people do this, but you and I do this specifically. We're listening, but we're looking at everything else that's going on. When the camera pans a crowd, we're counting every head. We're looking at every face that's in the crowd. I mean, not only was the talent, over on the seating side, there was the bookers backstage. There was, your Kevin Sullivans, your Vince Russos, your Scott D'Amores, your Simon Diamonds back there, D'Lo Brown, all of them. And there was more personnel that they didn't show that were sitting there listening. That needs to be the rah-rah speech that she has to put out. Now, do I disagree with the fact that Hogan wasn't there standing side to side with her, side by side? Yes, I do. Because if Dixie has put so much risk and so much financial backing into bringing in Hulk Hogan with an L, he should have been there during that speech.
Maybe she should have just played that clip from Any Given Sunday with Al Pacino in the locker room. I don't know if you really ever listen to that, but that's a motivational clip. It really says a lot as well. Listen, a lot of people are saying this shouldn't have been on Impact. This should not have been addressed. Here's the reason that I would say, the one reason that might be true. Who is Dixie Carter? Remember our introduction to Vince McMahon. We had listened to Vince McMahon for years upon years without many people knowing he was the man in charge and owning the company. It wasn't until the whole Bret Hart thing, specifically in March of 1997, when he got shoved on his keister that we knew Vince McMahon had a higher role in the company. We then had the opportunity to get to know and get to learn Vince McMahon. Even before that, the whole thing with him and JR. There were all these little hints and glimpses at what Vince McMahon really was. Granted, a completely different situation, but the fans had the opportunity to either love, like, or hate Vince McMahon. And then, obviously, the big Montreal situation solidified his role in the company. I think Dixie needs to be introduced to the fans. Not just saying she's the owner of the company, because I think the only people giving her admiration are those who have been loyal followers of TNA who know who she is. I think the fans need a reason to care about him, which means they need to do some kind of big angle. They need to do something. They need to have something heinous happen in the Impact Zone where Dixie comes out and saves the day, or Dixie comes out and tries to break it up, yet somebody attacks Dixie. Something of significance needs to happen involving Dixie Carter for the fans to either get behind her or be intrigued enough in whatever storyline she's participating in to form an opinion of her.
I don't know if I want to go that route because, you know what, that just seems too WWE. Let's do something different. I think her being the authoritative face, the Linda McMahon, if you will, I think is enough. Don't put her in some corny, cheesy, somebody bumped her, somebody accidentally kicked her, punched her. Don't do that to her.
Yeah, but it's all in how you sell it.
I understand that. But
remember when Bischoff got powerbombed by Nash through the table? That was heinous. That was not heard of. That
was
been
1996.
Done. Yeah.
This is 2010 coming up.
And I'm saying you don't do the same thing, but you need to do something to get the fans emotionally. That's what the creative process is. There's new stuff coming along in the line all the time in wrestling. A lot of it may be rehashed, if not slightly, if not majorly. But they've got to do something to get the fans interested and intrigued in what Dixie Carter's all about and what she supports, and they've got to either love her or hate her. Now, she's the president of the company. Who cares? From a fan's perspective, a casual fan especially, tuning into Impact. There's no intrigue that's been built. I think they've got to do that for Dixie's words and Dixie's dictates to be a bit more meaningful.
I think less is more in this case.
She also said to the talent, you can either support the company or find somewhere else to work. Now, when you're saying that to several people sitting in the room who may have recently asked for their releases, and the same people who know who Dixie is, and the same people who know what's going on in TNA, hear this, the reaction is a bit unique because you sort of know there are people sitting there who don't want to be there. The whole thing was, I think, I know to me was intriguing. Because obviously I know Dixie's role in the company because I follow the business. And obviously we knew that TNA has a lot to explain as it pertains to this Hulk Hogan signing. But casual fans who were just tuning by, and this was the beginning of Impact, this show that Hulk Hogan's on now, I don't even know if she mentioned Hulk Hogan.
Eric Bischoff mentioned
Hulk
Hogan.
That point. It missed that point. And that point was fans need to care about Dixie enough to care about what she's saying. Because if Vince McMahon in 1970, whatever it was, had just been thrown out there, or 1983 even after he took over the company, had just been thrown out there as the authority figure or the owner, it would not have been as important. This is the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com.
For the latest interviews, blogs, contests, and more, log on today to the all-new ESPNMilwaukee.com.
Welcome back to the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com. I want to remind everybody, PWR Interactive, our weekly email and question and answer show, is available now at PWRshow.com. Went out first to our Twitter users, those who follow us on Twitter earlier tonight. And again, our name on Twitter is PWR Show. And also available on YouTube. We answer several of your email questions and so much more. That's the Pro Wrestling Report Interactive, available now on demand at PWRshow.com.
And not only the Twitter, obviously, you can follow, Frank, you can follow Damian, you can follow Dave Hero, you can follow myself, you can do it on Facebook. We're all over the place. So how you're not following us right now in some form is beyond me.
It's a multimedia circus. You can also join us on the
Keep going.
phone lines, the number 276-3776 or 1-800-990-3776 this Friday on the Pro Wrestling Report Prime Time, celebrating over 10 years on the air on Time Warner Cable in southeastern Wisconsin. Our guest will be Tracy Brooks, former or recent Playboy model and also a TNA knockout. And member of the main event. Well, I asked her about the Main Event Mafia in our sit-down interview. That's going to be on PWR Primetime this Friday. And she was a little just as confused as we were about the Mafia. So
did she kill it?
You have to tune in to find out. That's this Friday on the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime. WWE has done something what I consider to be very shocking. They've announced that starting in 2010, they're bumping up the price of the pay-per-views. It's going to set a base price of $45 for the pay-per-views. However, and that's up from $40. However, at the same time, their goal now is to do one event per month. I think they learned their lesson this year, especially in the spring and summer, of those 3-week windows between pay-per-views. They've eliminated the former Judgment Day pay-per-view, and in order to free up the schedule to give a little bit more time for the creative process between pay-per-view shows, and they're going to be setting forth with a goal of doing only one per month starting next year. And
so
the
wait,
best
you
part
said
for
there's
us is
you said there's 13 pay-per-views. How are they doing one per month if there's 13 pay-per-views?
I said that they've set a goal of doing one per month starting next year.
Okay.
The good thing for all of us is that's one less pay-per-view we have to buy.
Yeah.
I've long said, and I don't know why they don't do it, but they should, and they do it on the road to WrestleMania. Sometimes you can get the Royal Rumble, No Way Out, and WrestleMania for one price. They should offer a season pass. They should offer some kind of like the Sunday ticket on DirecTV or whatever it may be. Offer something where you're not trying to convince people to pay every month. Get their money up front, and then
you're talking about
give them whatever they want.
Give them a price break if you're going to buy 12 pay-per-views or 13 pay-per-views.
Discount. I think the discount for the Road to WrestleMania package is only like $5, but people got to think they're getting something out of it, and I just don't know why WWE hasn't pursued that opportunity, especially given the fact that their pay-per-view business last year was down. Now, here's what I got a great kick out of. Last week, WWE released their third-quarter business results, and so many of the wrestling journalists out there started slamming it, saying this was an abysmal report. Look at the buy rates for these pay-per-views. WWE's, all their business is down. Well, most of them forgot the point that they made more money year over year due to some efficiencies and cuts. But what company isn't down? And to unfairly knock WWE for that didn't make much sense to me.
Burger King.
Their pay-per-view revenue specifically were about $14.5 million in the quarter compared to $16.5 million in the quarter before, about a 10% decline. Now, that's substantial, of course, but they also had a higher percentage of international buys, and those are lower priced, some free, and also for comparable pay-per-view periods over the same period the year before, 22% for the quarter and 9% on the year-to-date basis. The specifics are as follows. WWE Breaking Point, which replaced Unforgiven, did about 169,000 buys, which was down from Unforgiven's 211,000 buys in 2008. Night of Champions actually a bit of a success, and that one's been a strong pay-per-view for a while, 267,000 buys. And the top pay-per-view since WrestleMania was WWE SummerSlam with 369,000 buys. Strong number, no doubt, but down from the 477,000 it got in 2008. Over almost 110,000 fewer people ordering the pay-per-views. Now, I attribute it to this. I think more people are coming together and charging $5 a head at the door or $10 plus pizza to get in and watch the pay-per-views at somebody's home as opposed to everybody ordering it individually. But I think WWE is on the right track with everything aside from the price increase. We're going to take our final time out of the evening. When we come back, it's our top 5 and information on the 2009 Pro Wrestling Report honors. This is the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com.
540 ESPN Text Club members get the breaking news on the Packers, Brewers, Badgers, and Bucks. Sign up today at ESPNMilwaukee.com.
The obligatory 1, 2, 3 kid. Welcome back to the Pro Wrestling Report on 540.
It must be played.
On 540. It's a great song.
That's your mark,
I just can never get the image of him in a diaper covered with baby powder sipping on a bottle out of my head. This is the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN. We are live Tuesday, November 10th, 2009. Damian Nelson, the man they call Meathead. Meathead, it's time now to go to our top 5. Each week we pick the top 5 competitors in the wrestling business as we see them, and we always start with he who is least prepared. Meathead, your turn, your top 5 for this week.
It's always prepared. You just don't understand. Number 5 on my top 5 is going to be Mickey James. Number 4 will go out to the team of Brutus Magnus and Doug Williams. Number 3, the tag team of Beer Money.
Beer Money!
Number 2 will go to, AJ Styles. I think AJ Styles still, even though he's the TNA heavyweight champion, looks stronger than he's given credit for. And number 1 on the Meathead's top 5, Evan Bourne. He looked amazing. He did some stuff in the ring. I sat and watched Bourne swagger. That was amazing.
Then now the definitive top 5, ladies and gentlemen, the one all of you clamored to your, or however you're listening tonight. Number 5 on my list is going to go ahead and be, his name is Dolph Ziggler. Number 4 is The Miz. Number 3, taking up my tag team spot is Legacy, including Randy Orton. And number 2, ODB. Again, I've fallen in love. And number 1, Kofi Kingston.
Damien, I was planning on putting my mustache in the top 5, but it just hasn't been top 5 material. Hey, it's sexy. I got the fiance calling me Tom Selleck, asking me if I'm going to be coming on Miami Vice later this week.
Tom Selleck is some kind of compliment?
It is a compliment.
That's Magnum P.I., big fella.
Tom Selleck, Magnum P.I., Burt Reynolds, whatever you want to call it. My Mo is sexy.
Coming up this week on PWRshow.com, we've got the finalists of the 2009 Pro Wrestling Report Honors. You all have submitted your nominations in each category, and we've got the finalists. The announcement of the finalists. It's almost like the Academy Award announcement of the nominees coming up this week on the Pro Wrestling Report website, PWRshow.com, so be sure to tune in for that. I think you'll be surprised at some of the finalists as voted on by the fans. As we said, coming up this Friday, the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime. I've got a sit-down interview with Tracy Brooks, which is not to be missed. PWR Interactive is available now at PWRshow.com on demand, and you can send your video questions to us. Check PWRshow.com for a update as to when the Pro Wrestling Report will be on next week. We'll have a full preview of the WWE Survivor Series as well as our top 5 Survivor Series moments coming up next week as well.
1989, Chicago, Illinois was the 4x4s where they did the choreographed 2x4 celebration in the ring.
At the Rosemont Horizon.
Yes, sir.
That dump. We'd like to thank everybody who called us here on the Pro Wrestling Report this evening, and also invite you to tune in to the PWR Prime Time this Friday night, where Tracy Brooks is our guest for the man they call Kaz, for David Hero and the man they call Meathead. This is Damian Nelson saying so long, everyone. We'll see you next time on the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN.